Hi guys, Zyger here, welcome back to another Awoken Devlog. Now today guys, I am going to be doing something completely different in the game. Basically, I am going to be sort of changing the weapon system. Now, I've already done this, so I am recording this after this has been actually done, and it took a while. Basically what I've done is I've changed how the weapons are handled by the game, how they are displayed and how they attack, so I've completely changed the attack system. Now just to let you guys know, this isn't completed and there is so many things that I still need to change, such as implementing other weapons, animations and sprites. However, I have implemented weapons such as swords, and I have also implemented a spear weapon, which I am going to be showing you guys today. Before I show you that though, I have also made some pixel changes, and what that means is changes in the sprites and assets. I've been receiving quite a few messages saying that some of the sprites look ugly, or they don't fit, or that they're just plain blank and bleak. So I decided to change them because I value you guys' suggestions, and I also think they don't look that great. So I'm going to show you first of all the different changes that I have made. So the first few things that I've changed was the fonts. Now these changes are not very noticeable, I just changed some sizes on things and changed a couple of pixels, but I thought I'd mention it in case some of you do see slight little changes. The next thing that I changed was actually the panels for the inventory. Now this took quite a while because I wanted to get a design that wasn't plain, bleak or simple. Well, I wanted it to be simple actually, but I wanted to have colours and I wanted it to like pop out. So this is the design that I set for the toolbar. Now I took this design and implemented it on the equipment bar, just adjusted some of the edges and implemented the sort of shadows of the armour. And then I also implemented it in the backpack, once again removing some of the edges to make it all fit nicely as so. The other thing that I changed was the chest. Now this was a very minor change. It used to appear with a little exclamation mark. That no longer happens. It now is a keyboard E. First of all, I did this because I think this looks a little bit nicer. It looks nicer in game, pops a little bit, and players can easily see it. As well as that, the player will know how to open the chest and doesn't have to read into the controls of the game as much. The next few things that I changed were very simple, so I added this bottom black gradient. This basically is a gradient that goes from this sort of dark bluish to completely transparent. And I'll show you how I implemented this into my game, and I think it looks really nice in game, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And then a few UI sprites that I added was the S coin and S damage icon. So these basically will appear on the screen and they will show you how many coins the player has and how much damage they are currently doing. Now the way this is currently displayed in the game will change, so do ignore it at the moment. But the rough idea is that you have a coin and next to it you have the number of how many coins you have, and then you have the damage icon and next to it you have how much damage you're doing. So once again, the design of how it is implemented in the game will change. Now if I go into the room, I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the gradient down here, which some of you might have seen in some of previous clips. But basically what it does is it makes it look like the ground is slowly getting darker into this bluish thing. So I'm going to quickly run the game and show you what it looks like with all the different sprites implemented. So as you guys can see, this is what the gradient looks like at the bottom. I think it looks quite nice, and the UI looks like this on the top, but once again, as I said, this will change, and this is what the inventory looks like. Final thing that I forgot to mention is the selected slot will have little arrows as such, so if I switch it, this is what it looks like. As you can see on the bottom is being switched, and this is what it looks like. Very simple, but I think it's quite a nice and effective way of adding it. Final thing I forgot to mention is the player now has his hands a bit closer together, and this is because of the new attacking system that I implemented, which basically means that if the player can hold an item now, such as swords. Final thing, the E, this is what it shows up on the chest like so. So a few other minor changes were done to the player. As I said, the hands are now together and the attack was changed. Now this attack currently looks like this. Looks very laggy and very weird at the moment. However, this will be changed, so do not worry about that. This was changed in order to make the weapons work properly and to make it appear like they are actually being used. So now I'm going to move on to explaining the weapon system. Now this might take some time, so you guys don't have to watch this, but I do recommend watching it so you guys can grab an idea of how it works and maybe implement some of these features in your game. So the first thing that happens is if I go into the player, this is where the player decides what item they are holding. So in the draw event, and I know it's really weird, I had to do it in the draw event due to other issues that I was having, but if you were to do this in your own game, I would recommend doing this in the step event, so that this actually runs every step of the game. So there's a code here, and it looks complicated. Now unfortunately, this bit of code down here at the top bit, you won't actually be able to use in your own project, only because I have different types of scripts that allow this to work. But basically what it says that if the current selected item, which is this, is the Eternum Sword, what will happen is the strength of the player will be set to 45, the image index of the item that will be created on the player will be 3. Now 3 basically stands for the weapon Eternum Sword, and that's the image that we want. It checks if drawn equals false, so if the item has not been drawn yet, what will happen is we'll set the index again because I had some issues of having to set it again basically. It will create an instance of O Sword, it will set drawn to true, and it will set once again strength to 45. So this basically means that if you're currently selecting the Eternum Sword, what will happen is it will create the instance of the Eternum Sword on the player, and it will set your damage or strength to 45, and it will ensure that the instance that is created looks like the Eternum Sword. Then I basically duplicated this for all the other types of swords, and I'll go over the mace in a minute. And final thing that I have is if nothing is selected, what will happen is the sword will be destroyed and the spear will be destroyed, so any types of items will be destroyed, drawn will equal false, and the strength will go back to 10. Now let's go back to the item that is actually the sword. Now the O Sword is the item that is being drawn. Now this is the bit of the code that you guys will be able to use for your game, I guess. So what happens when this is created, we set the scale to 0.8 and X scale to equal the same as Y scale, so that it's basically equal to 0.8. The image speed is 0 so that it doesn't have an animation, and then this bit. Now this is what you guys will be able to use. So these are some variables that will allow the sword to turn to the direction of the mouse. So basically the rotation speed will be 30, so the higher the value, the faster the rotation. The direction will be 0, so this is only used for rotation, and this will be direction. So it will point into the direction. Basically what will happen is the instance will point direction to the mouse X and Y. Now the way this works here is, once again, image index is the current image index that was set previously on the player. X and Y, this is where I want the sword to be positioned, so this is dependent on wherever you want it. And then this is the bit of code that you guys can use. So direction equals point direction X, Y, mouse underscore X, mouse underscore Y. This basically means that the sword will be pointed in the direction of the mouse. The image angle will add equal sin decotorad, direction minus image angle times by the rotation speed. Sounds complicated, but if you have this bit of code, and if you take this bit of code, now this obviously in the create event and this obviously in the step event, what will happen is this chosen object that has this code will now point in the direction of the mouse. Very simple. And this basically checks that if I left click, which is my attack, the sword will change angle to down, so it'll look like it's making a little swipe down. Now that is it. I'm going to quickly show you what it looks like in game so you guys can see and kind of understand it a little bit easier. So I can grab myself a sword here, put it in here, and as you can see it will face in the direction of the mouse. And when I hit it, it'll go down and do a little attack. And I can attack it, and as you can see it's 25, and if I don't have any selected, it'll be 10 because I'm just hitting with my fists. Now you can have let's open these chests, see if we get a sword. We didn't, but basically you can have any type of sword and it will do different types of damage. This value at the top will also be updated depending on which one what you've got selected, as you can see right now as I'm switching between them. So that's basically the code for the sword. This was really complicated for me to do actually because it took a very long time. Now we're going to go into the spear. So before I go over the code, I'm going to show you how it works in game. So we're in game right now, and here is a spear. So if I pick it up, what happens is I can add it into my inventory and I can hold it, which looks as such. And now this works the same way that the sword display works. If I left click, it stretches it because I'm going to have an ability that allows you to like grab onto things and stretch things, but it basically stretches it. Now if I right click, what it'll do is it'll shoot towards the mouse and it'll come back sort of like a boomerang. Now this is what it happens just normally, so I'll be able to lob the spear. Now the direction of the that the spear is facing hasn't been set up, and as you can see there are a few bugs here and there, which is what I'm going to have to be fixing over the next few days. I'm also going to be implementing it. If it hits the ground, it will stay in the ground unless you right click again. Now this is the spear, and I'm going to go over the code. As I said, it's a bit buggy, and the only reason it's actually buggy is because of the way my game works. If you guys actually use this code in a brand new gamemaker engine or in your game, it probably won't have these bugs, because I've tried it in other versions of my game and it works without bugs. So the way it works is a little bit complicated. I had to create 3 actual objects. So the first is the O spear. Now I need to point out what happens basically is when the player has the spear selected, what will happen is the O spear instance will be created. So this is already in the game, basically because the player has it selected. Now in the create event, here I set a few variables. So the first thing I set is obviously the speed. We have the same rotation, and I set 2 other values, which is fire and 1 spear to false. Now in my step event, I check if it has not been fired yet, set the image index to the current image index of the selected item, set these X and Y values depending on what you want, obviously do the rotation, and then if the mouse button is left press, image scale will obviously be stretched, which is what I was having earlier, and if it's released, it'll go back. So this isn't actually needed, this is for the stretching of the item. So if you're making this yourself, you don't have to have the item stretched. You only need this, which works the rotation and the position of the sphere if it hasn't been fired. However, if it's been fired, what it does is it checks for 1 spear. So 1 spear will equal false, because this is what it equals. So if it's false, so there isn't 1 spear yet, it'll create the instance, and then 1 spear will equal to true. This basically means that a spear already exists, and if you don't have this, and you can actually name this variable to anything you wish, if you don't have it though, you'll be able to create multiple spears, and I only want to be able to throw 1. So then we have the O throw, and this basically controls where the spear is thrown and how it's thrown. So on the create event, go back equals false because it's not going back. Image, speed, index and angle are up to you and whatever you want. So for me it's speed 0, angle 40, and the image index is the current selected image, which was set up in the player, but you can have this to whatever number you want. And then R speed, direction, and direction again is what I used in all my other items, and it allows the facing of this item. The main stuff actually happens here, and as you can see, it's not that much code. It looks a little bit complicated, and there is definitely an easier way of doing it, but I'm going to explain the way I did it. So basically what it does is it checks that if the distance to the player is bigger or equal to 50, it will go back. So set this value to go back true. And basically what this does is, I'll show you this in a second, this is what it does here. But for now, the go back is false. So if it's false, what will happen is the spear will move towards click manager, click X, and click manager Y. This basically is mouse underscore X, mouse underscore Y. So go towards the mouse. The direction is this, and this is the image angle. So this is once again something that I've used earlier. You don't need this, you could just have this. So basically this means if it hasn't gone back yet, it'll move towards your pointed direction. Else, so if it has gone back, it'll go towards the skeleton. Now, it sounds complicated, but basically what it means, the first time you click it, it'll go towards the mouse, and once it reaches the end, it'll go back to the player. This is where it goes back to this bit of code. So once it fires, it checks that if it's further or equal to 50, so if the distance of the spear is more or equal to 50, it'll go back. And if go back is true, what happens is this. And then if it gets close to the player, so if it's smaller or equal to 2 pixels in distance, so basically means once it's next to the player, go back will equal true, it'll destroy itself, so it's no longer a thing, and it'll set these value to go back to false because it's reached it, and 1 spear and spear fire to false, which was the values we set earlier, so we can fire it again. Sounds complicated, but if you guys copy this into your code, it'll make a lot of sense. So once again, this is the create event, this is the step event. For the O spear, this is the create event, this is the step event, and then this is the global right pressed event. And then the click manager, very simple, this is on the global right pressed, this is all you need. These 3 items will allow you to create this throwable spear, which I'm also going to add other abilities in another video. Now that's basically it, all I've done. So I've set up this different whole attacking system, weapon system, and a new weapon, which is the spear. Now it's very complicated, and I'm sorry for like going on about it, but I kind of wanted to let you guys know how the code process works. So if you have enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up, and if you have any suggestions for future videos or enjoying it, go ahead, comment down below. As well as that, guys, I am going to be streaming quite recently. I want to be streaming this kind of devlog process as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my Twitch in the description below, and whenever I stream, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on the community tab on this YouTube channel, I'm going to do a little post saying I'm going live in 10 minutes, and I'll give you a link or whatnot. So make sure to subscribe to ensure that you're there on the stream if you want to anyway. And we're close to 1,000 subscribers. Once again, as I mentioned, if we reach the 1,000 subscribers, I will be doing a giveaway and a face reveal. Now, if you want to vote for what type of giveaway you want, it is still on my community tab where you guys can vote. Currently, the Steam gift card is winning though, which is awesome. And that's about it. And final thing, guys, I promised about a Discord, and that I'm making a separate video on, because I feel like I want to, give you a separate video about the Discord and show you what's going to happen. So that'll be coming out this week or next week. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks so much for watching, and yeah, bye!